Russia launched dozens of missiles and drones at the Ukrainian energy sector, ramping up a months-long bombing campaign at a precarious moment of the war in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed that Russia has launched more than 40 missiles and over 70 drones in an overnight attack that targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Zelensky claimed that of the 40 missiles launched by Russia, at least 30 were destroyed. Here's a report.
People in Kyiv take shelter at metro stations as Russia launches an air attack. Minutes before, Ukraine's Air Force had warned of numerous groups of missiles launched by Russia amid a nationwide air raid alert. The barrage came just one day after Kyiv said it had carried out its largest aerial attack of the war on Russian army factories and energy hubs hundreds of kilometers from the front line. The Ukrainian Air Force claimed Russia deployed 43 cruise and ballistic missiles and 74 attack drones in the overnight barrage that appeared to have targeted strikes mainly in western Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed its forces carried out high-precision strikes on energy facilities that support the Ukrainian military-industrial complex. Moscow claimed that all the designated targets were struck. But the Ukrainian Air Force says 30 missiles were shot down as well as 47 drones. The Ukrainian national grid operator had to introduce emergency blackouts in 7 regions, which was lifted later. Critical infrastructure facilities were hit in Ukraine's western Ivano-Frankivsk region. Officials in the western Lviv region, which borders the EU and NATO member, said 2 infrastructure facilities were hit in 2 of its districts. The governor of Eastern Donetsk also reported critical infrastructure being hit in the Russian barrage. The Kherson mayor confirmed that part of the region faces blackout after the overnight attacks. The Russian military accused Kyiv of using US and British-supplied missiles in one of the attacks on Tuesday and vowed that it would not go unanswered. The intensifying drone and missile strikes between Kyiv and Moscow come at a challenging time for Ukraine, with significant developments along the extensive front line. In the northern Kharkiv and eastern Donetsk regions, Russian forces have leveraged their superior manpower and resources to make steady progress at several critical points. Now all hopes are pinned on US President-elect Donald Trump, who has time and again claimed that he can stop the war in no time and has expressed his willingness to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, the Russian military has accused Kyiv of using US and British-supplied missiles in one of the attacks on Tuesday and has vowed that it would not go unanswered. And we do understand that the intensifying drone and missile strikes between Kyiv and Moscow come at a challenging time for Ukraine, with significant developments along the extensive front line. And we also understand that in the northern Kharkiv and eastern Donetsk regions, Russian forces have leveraged their superior manpower and resources to make steady progress at several critical points. Let's talk to Dr. Charles Kupchen, who's a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, the CFR. He's now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Dr. Kupchen, thank you very much for making time for us. It's just 5 days to go until Donald Trump is inaugurated as the 47th President of the United States. He had mentioned that he wants to quickly hold discussions with President Vladimir Putin. Do you think President Putin will talk to Trump, and is there any willingness to end the war?
I think that President Putin will talk to President-elect Trump, and I'm guessing that they'll have a conversation early on after Trump takes office. Do I think that there's a chance of ending this war? Yes, I do. I think that the Ukrainians are suffering an enormous amount of damage, death, and destruction. I think that the Russians are also suffering economically. They've lost close to 700,000 soldiers killed and wounded So I do think that there is a possibility here that the war can be ended, a ceasefire take hold. And in some ways, I think what we're seeing now in this escalation is both sides jockeying for position, both sides attempting to put themselves in as strong a position as possible at the negotiating table, knowing that Trump is going to try to negotiate an endgame.
Dr. Kupchen, we've heard from Zelensky, who says that he wants this war to end diplomatically. But on the flip side, what do you think about Russia? What will it take for Russia to actually give in and say that it's time to end this war?
You know, I think the easiest part will be the territory, because wherever the front line is when the negotiations conclude, that becomes a new border of sorts, and then you try to put in a peacekeeping force or a monitoring force. The Ukrainians don't accept that Russian-occupied Ukraine belongs to Russia, but at least you might get an end to the death and destruction. Where I think the negotiations will be difficult, what else does Putin ask for? Will he ask for Ukrainian neutrality and a cap on Ukraine's armed forces? Will he ask for the West to take sanctions down? Will he ask for recognition of Crimea and Donbass as part of Russia? There, I think the Ukrainians are going to say no. I think the Europeans will say no. I don't know what Trump will say, but it's those other issues that are going to be the real tough ones to crack in the peace conversation.
All right, we'll have to end this discussion there. Dr. Kupchen, as always, thank you very much for your time and for talking to us today.
My pleasure.